Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to thank for you for coming to our presentation, and I really appreciate. And I see a very familiar faces which we had before in training of school teachers also. Today I would like to present research presentation, namely the students' motivation and the teachers' perception of them, and how much it can match or mismatch with each other. So as you see, the agenda is concentrated on what we know about student motivation first, then what we need to know about teachers. So in order to identify the match or mismatch in there, and how can we determine the teacher's accurate ideas about students' motivations. Let me move on. So firstly, I would like to start with what we know already about the students' motivation. That, as you see, the present research finds that I'm going to show you, then the classroom applications, what can be applied in classroom, and the suggestions, then the specific activities and methods that can be used for my research. So what we know about students. So I have made a lot of literature and find out some interesting, which is related to my topic, related with the motivation. And it says that there are 3 levels of motivation according to Lee 2018, that it says that different proficiency, which means that if the motivation of the student is lower, that it means the proficiency will be the lower as a result of the Lee U shows. And another point that 92.2% of the students were intrinsically motivated with the gamification pedagogy. But as you know that when the students are intrinsically motivated, they will be independent in learning the language. When there is extrinsic motivation, for example, if you say you will go to the abroad to study, if you learn, for example, English, in that case with the students mainly motivated with extrinsically, yes. If you say that to your, for example, even to your children that we have to change the plan and you are not going to abroad, his motivation will be not as before. And in that case, learning of the English or learning the studying will be decreased as a result shows. Then the feeling of less enjoyment that which made in the Germany, that students lead to decreased intrinsic motivation and self-efficiency beliefs that it affects it correlates with the motivation mainly. Another research shows that ESP, English for specific purposes, which is learning achievement accomplished by low motivation group, was insignificant with compared to the high motivation group on each class, on the same class which had in 2. The other shows that the students' lack of engagement in asking questions and answering wrongly is a threat of doing it wrongly. Mainly, students has a threat of asking the questions, so they may afraid to ask wrong questions and to be seen maybe from their point of stupid in front of other or mates. So therefore, in order to eliminate such kind of situations, we should encourage them to asking the question, even if it's some kind of simple questions. It doesn't matter what kind of question, but if it's related to the subject oriented, it's okay that if they ask questions. So in order to do that, making for teacher learning atmosphere to this class is most important. Another point that the reason of students lack engagement to the class was, I have stated that. And the last one is students perceived by teachers to be highly motivated, and they had high grades in reading social studies compared to less motivated students. So if you are motivated, it means that your students also will be motivated to the class, to learning. If this teacher is demotivated, if it directly affects to the students also. So what we need to know about the teachers. So this, as I have stated before, 3 levels, that lower proficiencies. For example, the research shows that boys has a gender effect, that as research saw that higher the learning for girls was higher in result of proficiency in language compared to the boys in their same level. And another point, because of age effect. The another point regarding is the teacher's perception was that 92.2, as I stated, that was intrinsically motivated by gamification pedagogy. So if you see the result shows, can you see that? I can make it bigger. Let's try to do. So when the teachers use the gamification methods in their teaching, they have mostly they motivate. As you see, the percentage is higher, which means that through gamification means that taking the elements of the game to the study and direct to make learning. So game means doesn't making just have a fun, but through the fun that students may not know, but teacher should make sure that the learning is happening in the class. So this result also shows a very positive outcomes, as you see. So can I go back? Okay. So what can we do? So in German students, not the teachers made in order to increase the motivation of students. So what were the real problems with in English? It was mainly the writing tasks, grammar tasks, and reading tasks. So recommended tasks was scaffolding. Did you know? Does anyone know what is scaffolding?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is it? Can you tell?
If the game is difficult, then you need to adapt it to the learning level, or differentiate instruction according to the age, gender.
Okay. What about ZPD? Zone proximal date. Zone proximal. 12. Yeah. It's a little bit similar with scaffolding. As you stated that. As you see, it has been taken from the construction industry actually, that teacher will will go back to the, as you stated, to the level of the student, or makes a scaffolding until the student reaches that point, and then scaffolding will be taken. So it means that students can go further for the learning of her or himself. Or self-access forms, so writing of narrative stories. So writing narratives and stories makes students not only, if it come from the point of the Bloom's taxonomy, it doesn't only covers the understanding and the memorization level. When they are telling their own stories, narratives writing, they can go through the creating and analyzing the evaluating stages. So this is one of the recommended ways. So low motivated ASP students are also learning achievement insignificant compared to high motivation group on each class. So it was because of peer pressure in the current value. And in that case, in order to improve the motivation, the teacher suggested to offer the comprehensive direction through activities and modify language curriculum, the syllabus, by approaching with strategic motivational tools and involving complete instruments, questionnaires, maybe surveys and tests through can be achieved. And based on that, because in every class, the teacher knows the students better than others. Yes, in every class, they has own students, and teacher knows better how to teach them compared to others. And in this case, as we stated above, that the fifth point was threat of asking questions. That in that case, what can teachers do in order to create a learning environment and ask, for example, environment that students can feel to ask the questions more freely. So teachers should provide additional weight and time to students to read the right answer. For example, when you ask a question, if the student doesn't answer, it doesn't mean you should just interrupt and stop. You can maybe teachers, if the teacher can give the time maybe for thinking. So some students may think not fastly, but they may need some time, or some 10 or 15 seconds. Being patient and waiting and giving it time may also encourage them to increase their motivation. Emphasizing the importance of understanding concepts with real situation, life, living problems. So it means that organizing the activities with practical approach and providing real life problems. So when we become this real life approach, or real life-based activities, the students can learn better because it's aligned with a real life situation. So when they go, for example, it can also impact to their employment in the future. So if they, for example, organizing group works in the team, sometimes students that may not want to work with the group mates, but learning how to work with different kind of people and different kind of students may help them when they go to the real employment procedure and working in the organization. And evaluation should be based on self-improvement of students and feedback. So feedback is a very good approach. I think that because through feedback, it helps students to learn. When the summative assessment, for example, helps to find only the result, what's happened, but feedback-oriented, for example, formative assessment approach can help them to learn more, because in the format one, they will not get a mark, but they can get the real direction, right direction where to go. And the next one. Okay. And the sixth one is students perceived by teachers by highly motivated, and they had a high grade student in social studies compared to less motivated students. So how can we motivate extrinsically students? For example, not every student is motivated intrinsically. So in that case, we can mainly provide the prizes, awards, and scholarships. So if you get some students may be interested in scholarship and prizes, so based on that, they may be interested in learning. And also the great influence can be the teachers, can influence through their parents and peers and by school. So in our case, our research design was mainly concentrated on two questions. So what motivates students on studying English inside and outside of the classroom? So if we provide an environment to speak in English in class, but they do not prepare at home, at outside the class, so it means the motivation is not high. Does the perception of teachers towards student motivation match or mismatch? For example, what we think as a teacher, for example, we may use some strategy to teach students, but it may not work because we think that it can be helpful for students, but from the students' point, they may expect different approach. Different kind of learning maybe happen. So what can be that? So if these perceptions match with each other, so motivation will be high. So how can we achieve that? So in order to achieve that, we have used survey questionnaire, and at WIOD and University of Diplomacy. So in WIOD, that business students have been taken, about 125 students from 5 classes, one class from CF first year students, and the 25 it was, and the second year students, and the third and level 6, which is 4-year students. And business students related were taken. And from University of Diplomacy, we have taken the ESP students, English for specific purposes, the students who are studying economics or business in English. So the same, similar amount, that 115 students have been taken from each level. And the duration of the survey questionnaire was 15 minutes. So, and in every class, the teachers of that students have been provided with a survey questionnaire of teacher perception, which is adapted from Jafar et al. And student motivation was adapted to Calvo and Dornay 2013. And the teacher's perception was only 5 minutes. So the situation questions mainly concentrated on the, let me make it, how it's important to understand why motivation is understand learning motivation in all contexts, and what the potential value and the correlation between the learners and the findings from the data set. So it can be helpful for the university and the students also. So this is mainly the abstract. So in order to identify the match or mismatch, so preliminary results shows that in the University of Diplomacy, students has higher motivation compared to our university students. This is a preliminary result currently. And another thing that mainly all of the students consider that the learning of English is important or high important. So this is mainly the briefly about my presentation. If you have some questions, you may ask. Thank you for listening.
If there are any questions, please ask. That is very good to hear about the universities to university students. Yeah, I taught these kind of students, mainly the students at the University of Diplomacy mainly come from the academic lyceum where we taught. And why they are so highly motivated, I can share with some experiences. I don't know the context now, but I can tell about the context 5 years ago when I worked there. Yeah, the students are highly motivated. They are with high critical thinking abilities. If you have experience with teaching them, and I can say that there are many of the students who I observed, for example, have been with their family members to the other countries, to the other, because some of the students, the parents of some students who are diplomats traveled to other countries together, and they were at school, they studied at other schools in the foreign country. That's why maybe when I investigated some courses. And after that, there were some events, kind of, for example, various contests at academic lyceum after classes, various clubs, and also we had some discussions there to, for example, public speaking and etc. Maybe this kind of effects or this kind of hard work maybe is a cause of this kind of high motivation.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your comment. Yeah, you consider it. Actually, you have mentioned a very good point. They haven't it. What I have been seeing little bit that in that university, in our university mainly, the students have been already passed with the ICEL minimum 5.5. Therefore, English is learning in English is not so much motivated, but learning the subject is in the first point for them. In their university, I have seen that they have simultaneously learning the language and implementing it into learning the subject also. For example, if they study in economics in Uzbek, but in the ESP, they have been implementing the learning of the English and using simultaneously they have interest to using in their subject.
And one more point is I saw some students with, for example, there are some support by their parents, and of course many of them even I was inspired by the process, and I also gave my daughter to this kind of clubs such as music and art, because most of the students who came to study there, who studied previously, who learned art and music especially, and with good talents, and they didn't have any difficulty in learning such kind of science subjects or some mathematics. That's why. Thank you for sharing. Thank you very much, Abbos.
Thank you.
And thanks to all of you. We're done. And I also want to coffee break, and there's a family downstairs. Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, the recording is stopped.
Yes.